What's going on, everyone? It's Slugger, and welcome back. In today's episode, I'm joined by Barry Grant Jr., host of the Alleven Podcast, for a real conversation about baseball and Mets fandom. We talk about Barry's journey in sports, his sports fandom, and then we dive into the Mets offseason, the Mets moves we like, the ones we question, and everything in between. Now that we have established this, let's jump right into it. Okay, what's good, guys? It's Slugger here, and welcome back to the Fuego&Slugger channel. We have a special guest for you, Mr. Barry Grant Jr. He has his own podcast called Alleven Podcast, so I'll definitely drop it here for you guys to follow. And thank you for joining the show, Barry. How's it going?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, Slugger, for having me on. It's going well. I mean, I'm in New York. I'm, dealing with flu and kids being sick and people around you being sick. So I'm just trying to dodge the sickness before Christmas. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
But it's all good. Like, happy to be here. Thank you for reaching out and having me on your show.
Oh no, definitely, most definitely. I mean, I've been following you for a little while now, and I've been seeing some of your takes. I love your takes, so I'm like, I got to get this guy on so we can discuss some Mets baseball. So I'm happy to have you. Thank you for joining the show and welcome.
Of course, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna ask you a few questions, and let's get into it. So what made you get into sports? Because I know you not only cover baseball, but you cover basketball and football. I've seen some of your other takes as well.
Yeah.
I'm a big Knicks fan. I know you're a Lakers fan because I've seen one of your takes, but I'm a big Knicks fan. But you're a Laker fan. And what's your football team? And
Jets.
Oh, the Jets. I feel bad for you.
Unfortunately.
That's football is the only team where I'm not rooting for a New York team. So
yeah. Okay. What's your team?
The Patriots.
Oh,
yeah.
Here we go. We got another Patriots fan I'll talk to.
I won't show you too much though on that.
Oh man.
But what made you get into sports?
Yeah. So what made me get into sports? I mean, listen, I'm a lot older than you. I may not look it, but I'm a lot older than you. I've been a sports head my whole life. Like I remember getting introduced to basketball at the very young age of 4. My mom was a huge Magic Johnson's fan. She loved the Lakers and she hated the Celtics because, she was always just like, why is Robert Parrish there? He should be on the other side. Like, don't be on because, it was very, very racial back then in regards to most black people rooted for the Lakers and it was the other way around. Right. So, on the other side that for the Celtics. So she was a big basketball fan, big Lakers fan. So I grew up knowing nothing but Lakers and Magic Johnson. That's just how I grew up. As I continue to get older, I started getting an affinity for baseball. I started, I love basketball. I love football. So, I've always been a sports kid. I've just from the time that I can remember myself, I've just always been into sports. I played basketball my whole life. Played AAU basketball, wasn't really good enough to continue on in regards to playing overseas or anything like that. But, have a lot of good friends that had overseas careers, big time college careers. Like, so I've always just been around sports and, it's a vital part of my personal life. I always tell people that sports is the ultimate unifier. You might not be able to speak the same language as somebody, but you guys can be able to have and root for the same team and you have that common bond, right? Like you go to any sporting event and people don't know each other. And because there's a great moment that happens, people are hugging, people are high-fiving, people now they've become friends in this moment because of what they're witnessing together, right? It's the great unifier. And I always tell people that as kids, it's vital to have your kid in some sport, not just because you want to see them possibly evolve as a professional how many years down the line, but it's good for social building. It's good for structure. It's good for discipline. It's good for being able to be independent as well and work for something. So sports is in everything, right? Sports is in everything. And you can be able to relate back to sports in every facet of your life. And that's why I say that, sports is everything for me.
Oh yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, as a baseball player, I learned so many life lessons from baseball. I mean, the team sport, the team aspect of
Yeah.
it, working together, the going through the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. So yeah, no, you definitely learn all of that from just playing sports alone, and
Absolutely.
it's definitely like it teaches you a lot of life lessons. So that's
100%.
wonderful part about it. So
Yep.
and I'm big on sports too. It doesn't matter what sport it is, baseball, basketball, football. I love all of them, but you got to just appreciate what sports are about though.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
So let's shift towards your fandom as a Met fan, because we both diehard Met fans.
Yeah.
How long have you been a Met fan?
Oof, boy, maybe 6. So I want to say since 91, I've been a Mets fan. So I've seen a lot of Mets baseball. I've always been, I wasn't a huge fan of the Mets at that time. I rooted for them, but I wasn't a diehard Met fan until Mike Piazza got there.
Oh, that makes a whole lot of
Piazza
sense.
Was the first guy that I said, I finally have somebody on this Met team that I love. Like outside of Strawberry and Doc and Keith Hernandez and those guys, like I recognize the superstardom of Mike Piazza, and there was just such a groundswell when he came here, such hope that he brought when he came here, and I was just like, oh, this is a big deal. This is serious. Like I've never seen this place react this way to one person like that before. And he brought in a lot of young Met fans at that time. And that's kind of where my Met fandom, kind of grew. I was always a big baseball fan because I'm a huge Barry Bonds fan.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm a huge Ken Griffey fan. Kenny Lofton, like these guys I grew up watching, right? So many greats, right? But Mike Piazza kind of started my Mets craze. You know what I'm saying? And it never relinquished from there.
It makes a lot of sense, Mike. If I'm not mistaken, Mike Piazza was like the first guy to sign like a $90 million contract, which was huge at the time.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money. So I could even put it to how much it's equivalent to now.
It was a big deal, man. A guy of that caliber coming to the New York Mets was unheard of, right?
Oh yeah.
Obviously you had other guys that have come here, but Mike Piazza was kind of just like, man, that's Mike Piazza. Like, I mean? Like that's the dude. So that's kind of where my Met fan and my Met craze kind of started.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It does, because Mike Piazza was a grand player. I mean, funny part is though, that doesn't even look like a Fred Wilpon kind of move though, with acquiring a Mike Piazza. And this was a guy who was drafted because his if I'm not mistaken, his godfather Tony Lasorda kind of begged the Dodgers to kind of draft him. So and for him to, despite all the odds, become the player that he became, one of the best hitting catchers of all time, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Piazza is the example of the ultimate overachiever. You know what I mean? Like somebody who was not looked at as anything, and all it takes is an opportunity. And that's why sports and life is so great, is because whatever opportunity you do get, you got to seize it. And the fact that he got his opportunity, he never let Lasorda down, because Lasorda knew how good he was, and that was it.
Yeah, you got to capitalize on your opportunities. You only get one shot sometimes, and he took full advantage of it.
Right.
So, I don't even think I need to ask this question, because you sort of answered already. Mike Piazza was your favorite player of all time, right? Well, your favorite Mets player of all time. Yeah, favorite Mets player.
Man, he's up there. I don't think that he's number one, because that's where my fandom started. But obviously, once you get the bug, like now you start to really start getting invested in a lot more players. Like I was a big John Olerud fan. I loved when John Olerud was here, right? Big, tall tower of power. I was a big Eduardo Alfonso fan. I was a big
pesky hitter.
Ricky Henderson, when he came here, did the tail end of his career. Like Ray Ordonez, I was a fan of.
Very
Robin
great defensive
Ventura.
player. Yeah.
Like so if Mike Piazza is definitely in my top 5, but I wouldn't say that he's my favorite. I'll give you who my favorite is. I mean, it's David Wright. David
Oh,
Wright
really?
is
Yeah.
David Wright's my guy.
Yeah.
I remember because at that time I was such
Mhm.
a crazy fan that I was watching the farm system. And I used to tell my friends, I said, yo, there's this kid down there that I think that he's going to be the next superstar for the Mets. Like his name is David Wright. And when he got called up, I think it was 04, he got called up midway of 04. That's kind of where my craze of really being a Mets fan, because every time I went to Met games specifically and I sat third base line and I used to go to like 35 games a season to watch David Wright. So I've been doing that from the days of Shea Stadium to Citi Field. You know what I mean? So David Wright is definitely my number 1 Mets player of all time. He consummate professional. You know, it's sad that he got hurt with that spinal stenosis, that he wasn't able to really have the full potential of his career. He was a guy that he was on pace to hit 400 home runs, over 2,500 hits. You know, he was going to be a Hall of Famer, like a real baseball Hall of Famer, not just in the Mets Hall of Fame, but he was on his way to Cooperstown with all the numbers that he had, and the spinal stenosis kind of robbed him of his prime years. And just a consummate professional that he was, he never complained. You know, he wanted to be here. He took that 8-year deal and had a lot of deferred payments because he wanted to help the team continue to grow and build. And those are guys that you don't see those guys come by often. And David Wright was our Derek Jeter. Like that, that was our guy. So, you know, that he'll always be head and shoulders over anybody to me because of what he brought. The pride of being a Mets fan came through David Wright for me. Like, you know, a lot of times people make fun of you because you're a Mets fan, but when David Wright had that C on his chest, it made you proud to be a Mets fan, because when people saw that David Wright jersey, they never gave you any smoke about that. They was just like, oh, you're a David Wright fan? Oh, all right, cool. He's cool. Like, I mean, like nobody ever said that David Wright wasn't a good player. So that was kind of like a rite of passage to speak to any fan base, because you always had that respect because David Wright was a consummate professional.
Oh yeah, no, you just hit the nail on the head in everything that you just said. I was just wearing a David Wright shirt just yesterday. I had like the big head and with his jersey on. David Wright, it was his birthday a couple of days ago too. I think he just turned like 41. Yeah. But I watched like you said, I've watched pretty much all of David Wright's career. I was really young when he first came up, but I watched pretty much like a good portion of his career. Right. And I mean, I just loved everything, the way he approached the game. It was the way he would run on the field, kick the bag, and he just took pride in what he did. He was a really hard worker. Yeah. And I mean, I watched that documentary too. I really enjoyed that one too. And speaking of we're just capitalizing on your opportunities, David Wright was one of them guys when he got drafted. Originally, when they went to the game, they weren't scouting him. They were scouting somebody else. Yeah. And then David Wright caught their attention because of the way he played, the way he approached the game. So David Wright is one of those guys who capitalized on his opportunity, took advantage of everything. And like you mentioned earlier, he didn't complain. He worked hard. Yeah. And they said he worked extremely hard. Even in the documentary, they said that he worked so hard that they even had to tell him to tone it down at times because he was overdoing it, you know, and as an athlete, you can overdo it. So that's the wonderful part about David Wright. I only wish that his career was way longer than it was. Yeah. Unfortunately, he sustained that injury. But David Wright would be that one Hall of Famer, like you mentioned, one of a big franchise player. And Pete Alonso should have been that guy, but David Wright is that one guy who will always be special.
As much as I love Pete Alonso, he's no David Wright. I tell people all the time, it's like David Wright was just different. Like, I said that he was our Derek Jeter, but more importantly, who David Wright really reminds me of in New York is Don Mattingly. I know that a lot of people are gonna, say, oh, well, Don Mattingly was a better hitter. Of course he was, but in regards to the trajectory of their career, Don Mattingly should have been a Hall of Famer, but spinal stenosis took him out as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's some extreme parallels there in regards to both players, that they meant everything to their organizations, but their organizations didn't really win when they were there. You know what I'm saying? So, but they always were the consummate professional, and kids loved them. So, it was unfortunate of what happened to him, but he gave everything he had to the game of baseball. It's not like when David Wright was out there, he gave everything he had, and you knew that. And as a fan, you can appreciate that, to know that a guy gave everything he had and tried his best to provide a winner in New York. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. David Wright was a role model. Him and Don Mattingly, they just are role models. Those are guys you look up to.
Yep.
Very nice guys, especially off the field, and hard workers on the field, and great players too. So that's one guy. Yeah, he was a role model. You looked up to him, and you always wanted to be like him.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's get into some Mets transactions, because as you know, so far it's been an insane offseason. So let's
at least.
Yeah. So let's get into some moves that were or weren't made. So start from the move from yesterday, the Jeff McNeil move that sent McNeil to Sacramento A's. I saw your video too. It looks like you were happy about that move. And you're not the only one though. A lot of Mets fans. Yeah. Lindor.
Yeah.
But my reaction is more so just that was a move that was inevitable. Like, it had to be done.
Yeah.
So we had to clear that salary. Jeff McNeil was on the decline, obviously, and he did provide versatility, but that versatility was not overpowering what he was lacking offensively.
Yeah.
I used to love Jeff McNeil in his prime, though. Don't get me wrong, because when he was a batting champion and a two-time All-Star, I used to love his game. He even had one season where he had like 23 home runs and he batted like 319, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And I used to love him, but the problem is now Jeff McNeil, he has no value in him, because he used to be a guy who hit for average. He doesn't hit for average anymore. He's a 243 hitter last year, and he has no type of power. So that move had to be done. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm 100%. I mean, everything that you said is spot on. The biggest thing with Jeff McNeil for me, and I've heard, from other Met fans, I've heard from other players, I've heard from, just people talking about rumors, is that Jeff McNeil is the type of player that when things are going well, you tolerate a lot of stuff. But when things aren't going so well, those things start to get very loud and it becomes a problem, right? Like Jeff McNeil was a guy that wore his emotions on his sleeve. And again, when you're winning, it's fine. But when things are not going so well, that same type of behavior is not conducive to having a great locker room. And, his body language when people would make errors or things would happen, the constant issues that he would have with other players on other teams, the complaining,
I remember.
Like all of these things are cool when you're winning 101 games in 2022, but when you're doing that, when you're not winning so many games in 2023, it becomes a problem. When you're winning in 2024, nobody cares. But when you have a collapse in 2025, it gets louder. And I just think that at this point, I don't know how much veteran leadership he was bringing in regards to morality in the clubhouse. I don't want to overspeak and say things that are not true. I'm not going to say that. But there was a need to be able to shake up this core or blow it up altogether, and he had to go. You know what I mean? So it's a good thing that they got rid of that contract. He's now on the A's. He can be able to see what value he can bring to them, and now the Mets can be able to have a lot more flexibility going forward to what they want to do in their infield.
Yeah, you're right. And especially after you got rid of Brandon Nimmo, you got rid of Pete Alonso, you got rid of Edwin Diaz. He was the longest tenured Mets after the departure of Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah.
But that was essentially the core. So if all those guys are gone and all those guys had a lot more value than Jeff McNeil, then you had to get rid of Jeff McNeil. That was inevitable. That was bound to happen.
He was actually the one that had 100% certainty that he was not going to return, right? Brandon Nimmo, There was rumblings about it, but he had a full no trade. He didn't have to go anywhere, right? He didn't have to accept the trade to Texas. He could have stayed if he wanted to, but that was kind of like, oh, really? He's actually going, okay? And then the Pete thing, I think more was an emotional release for a lot of fans, but the writing was on the wall last season. You know, if it wasn't for Steve Cohen, David Stearns was not going to reach back out to Pete Alonso and extend that deal. He wanted to move on then because David Stearns has never been a fan of Pete Alonso. Remember, when Billy Epler was here and offered Pete Alonso that 7-year contract and he declined it, that's when he still had the other agent, and then he got to Boris, and then you started to hear the rumblings of them putting Pete in trade talks. Milwaukee was a team that they said that, hey, that might be a viable option for Pete to go to because they need some power, blah, blah, blah. David Stearns did not want Pete Alonso then. So he becomes Pobo here. What makes anybody think that he wanted to keep Pete Alonso? You know what I mean? So you gotta see the writing on the wall. Like, I understand that fans are extremely attached to players and they get very emotionally invested, but this was written on the wall as soon as David Stearns got hired. Pete was not coming back because analytically, he was not a fan of Pete's game.
For whatever reason. But now my thing is, though, obviously we're fans and we do have emotional attachments to certain players, right? It's natural. But besides my emotional attachment to Pete Alonso and who he was as a man and what he meant as a player, my thing is, though, if you're gonna let Pete Alonso walk, who are you replacing him with? Because don't give me that Jorge Polanco is gonna be playing first base. First of all, David Stearns' motto is run prevention, right? Pete Alonso didn't fit his mold in terms of that. Okay, whatever. You move on from him. First of all, now you're missing the power. And now you're going to put Jorge Polanco at first base when he's only had 1 inning under his belt at first base. So you're going to put him at first? Is that really going to prevent runs? And he doesn't have the power of Pete Alonso.
Well, here's the thing, right? And we gotta look at baseball very differently, Slugger. And what I say about that is, like, you played the game, right? You understand that you can be a guy that hits 50 home runs every year in the lineup. You don't have to be successful as a team, right? Because if your lineup is too top heavy and the bottom half of your lineup can't hit, it doesn't matter how many home runs you're hitting at the top of the lineup, but whether you're in the third hole or in the cleanup hole or in the fifth hole, it doesn't matter because there's not enough production throughout the entirety of that lineup. So I'm not going to say that Pete was the problem. The problem is that Pete was a microcosm of how bad the Mets were so top heavy. So if you remove a Pete Alonso and you get a guy like Jorge Polanco who might play some, from hearing that rumors that he is going to, play some first, right? And there is some hope because he is a decent defender. I don't think that he's going to be our everyday first baseman. There is going to be somebody else that they bring in, whether it be via free agency or trade. But you think about guys like Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras was a catcher. He went ahead and converted to first base. He was one of the best defensive first basemen in all of baseball last year, right? So when you have the skills and the reaction time and stuff like that, those things can translate to different positions, right? So I'm not going to say that Jorge Polanco can't play the position because we have to see it. But I rather a team that has 8 guys that have the potential to hit 25 home runs than having one guy that can hit 40 home runs in the bottom of the lineup give you a total of 30 home runs. That's a concern. You need to make sure that you're having players throughout the entirety of that lineup that can be able to roll that lineup over so you can be able to create runs at the top of your lineup. The Mets didn't have that last year. When you get to the 6, 7, 8, 9 hole hitters, nobody can be able to get on base. So that means that guys at the top of the lineup were not being able to drive in runs, and we were having offensive problems. We had Nimmo, you had Soto, you had Lindor and Alonso that at different times of the year were carrying the offense. But can you say that about anybody else?
No, you're right.
Out of maybe Brett Beatty that was, had a decent second half and he put together a pretty decent season. Mark Vientos fell off the table. You still have Alvarez that
Alvarez.
hasn't figured it out yet. You had Angel Acuna there. It was a mess at the bottom. So if you're going to subtract a guy like Pete Alonso and then add a Jorge Polanco, add a Marcus Semien, add some other bats in here, now you have more versatility and you have more options in that lineup for guys to be able to drive in runs and have good seasons. So I'd rather that type of lineup than just two guys that can be able to match 40 home runs, honestly.
No, I concur with everything you said. I get what you're saying. You want a more balanced lineup, a deeper lineup.
Yeah.
But now the thing is, why can't you have somebody in the middle of the lineup with 50 home runs, and then a bunch of 20 guys with 20 plus home runs? So I mean,
well, yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I think that my biggest thing was I wanted Pete back, but I had very, very strict parameters for Pete coming back. Have Pete come back, but I only wanted him to DH. I did not want Pete to be first baseman because he was one of the worst defensive first basemen in baseball. You look at the analytics, it's right there in the data. You gotta understand, David Stearns is an analytical guy. Everything is numbers. So if you are statistically one of the worst defensive first basemen in baseball, which when you look at Pete Alonso by the eye test, you say, oh, well, he can be able to reach for balls. He's a great scooper. But think about it. Every time he makes a play to his right, he has to dive for it.
That's true.
That's a concern. You don't want your guys to have to give all out just to do a regular routine play. You want somebody to be able to have the athleticism to be able to scoop over there and make plays. Pete had a throwing to covering the bag problem.
Oh, he most definitely did.
You don't want those things to be a concern because those things do cost you runs. They do cost you games, right? So, and then you got to factor in Pete's bat is going to age well, right? He can be a DH until he's 38, 39 years old in the league. Is his defense going to age well? It won't. It won't. So a lot of people, when you're talking about the analytic part of it, you have to start factoring those things out. I wanted Pete Alonso back, but I wanted him as a DH. So if they would have signed him, it would be exclusive to just hit. And then bring in a first baseman who's a guy that can be able to be a great defensive first baseman, may not have the power. You can be able to get away with a guy that's hitting 15 to 25 home runs at first base, but he's giving you the defensive need that you need there to be able to be a great defensive team. The Mets were not a great defensive team last year. And when you factor in bad pitching, bad defense, you're not going to win any games. And that's why you saw that they were more than 15 games under 500 towards after June 13th or whatever it was, right? They were not a good baseball team. And it wasn't just because of the pitching. There were many problems on this team. So when you think about those things, yes, as fans, we love Pete Alonso. He should still be here as a DH, but you need to be better within the totality of this lineup to be a more consistent baseball team. And if that's where we're headed to, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, I get everything you said. I mean, with Pete Alonso, his defense definitely wasn't going to age well.
No.
And I know that for a fact as a first baseman too. But what I liked about Pete defensively was that the effort was always there. You couldn't question that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think his defense was going to age well either. And I get that you wanted him as a DH for the most part.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think Pete Alonso's offense was so good that it compensated for what you would call a bad defense. But the thing is, though, maybe you have him as a first baseman for 1 or 2 years, and then after that, because he wasn't that bad to the point where you couldn't have him at first base at all. Like he was a defensive liability, but not like to the point where if you have him there, he's really gonna cost you that many games. The thing is, what cost us the most amount of games last year was the pitching. Obviously, our defense wasn't great, especially, including Lindor, who was supposed to be one of the best shortstops in baseball. He didn't have a great defensive season last year, but it was nobody did. Yeah, no, nobody did. You're right. And then we had Mark Vientos at third base, who was one of the worst defensive third basemen. Brett Beatty improved his defense significantly, so that helped.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, but more than anything, it's the pitching that cost us, and we haven't addressed that issue yet. So if you have a decent rotation, but your defense is bad, obviously it's going to make your rotation look worse. But the problem is we had starting pitchers who couldn't give us any length at all. And that's not going to help you win at all. That's not conducive to winning.
Yeah, that's one thing that I will never let David Stearns off the hook. I call him the bargain bazaar shopper. That's what he likes. He believes that he's still in Milwaukee because you had to be creative in Milwaukee. You had to scout well. You had to make sure that you were developing your prospects to call them up to be able to get quality pitching. Because one, you're not signing anybody. No big free agents are going to Milwaukee. So you had to be creative in regards to how you build out your team. I don't want him to stop doing those things. I think he's done a wonders for our farm system. We're number one according to ESPN for a farm system, right?
I've heard that
That's
too.
Because of David Stearns. So we cannot say that he's completely a disaster. The problem is he needs to understand that you need to mix small market analytics with a big market budget. And if he can be able to combine those things and say, listen, we need to go land the big fish, get the big time free agents, the big time pitchers, and then I can be able to still fill out this roster with these marginal guys, these projects, because we have a pitching lab that we can be able to work on these guys and be patient with them and not have to ask them to do things that they're not ready to do right now, because we have the big aces. We got a number 2 star. We got a bona fide number 3. We got a bona fide number 4. Now we can be able to kind of, experiment with a number 5. Or now we have a 6-man rotation. Now we can figure out what we're going to do. But when you have projects throughout your entire rotation, that's a concern. And that's where a lot of Met fans are just like, okay, what's the plan, my guy?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
who
exactly.
are you going after? If you don't want to extend X amount of years for Framber Valdez, then who are you getting? Because if it wasn't for David Stearns' hesitancy and conservativeness in regards to how he approached trades, Garrett Crochet would be a Met right now.
Oh yeah. I saw that report too from last year that they had the prospects lined up, everything.
We were in talks, and he didn't want to give up certain guys. And the Red Sox said, we'll do that. We'll give up.
Why would you not? 25 years old. He's aging. He's trending in the right direction.
Because you got a guy that, and I've said this several times. I've said this on my show. I've said this on Instagram. People can go check it out. David Stearns, to me, is one of the worst negotiators when it comes to being a president of baseball operations or a GM. There's many different abilities that you need to be in that position. One, you have to have an eye for talent, of course.
Of course, yeah.
2, you have to know how to land the big deal, right? You have to negotiate. So when you're speaking to other GMs, you're speaking to free agents, you have to know how to close a deal. And I don't think that David Stearns is good at that. I don't. He has shown you time and time again when the Mets have finished 2nd or 3rd place to a free agent, he cannot close it. And why can't he close it? Because he's trying to be too cute in negotiations. Sometimes if you want somebody, you have to spend. Sometimes if you want a player, you have to give them an extra year, even if you don't want to. Sometimes if you want a player, you have to give them an extra $5 million on top of their salary to seal the deal. Sometimes you have to throw in another top 25 prospect to be able to get the player that you want. But when you try to hoard these things or try to get too cute in negotiations, there's going to be another team that will go above and beyond to get that player. And now you're left holding the bag. And this is what's been happening to the Mets over the last 2 seasons. And this is a concern that I have. So I'm waiting to see how this team is going to look like come spring training. But I have those concerns because we keep falling short. Oh, we're focused, or we're zeroed in on Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras is now a Boston Red Sox. We're now focused on this player. This player is not here. We're now focused on this player. This player is now here. That's all we keep hearing is that the Mets are targeting this guy. They're targeting this guy. And then what ends up happening? That same target goes somewhere else. And why is that? Because we have a person that is not a shrewd negotiator. And he tends to be a little bit too conservative when you should be aggressive, because you have the guy behind you to be able to say, oh, get any deal done. Let's put this thing together. So you have the power and the force of a big market, big spending owner. Use it. Right. The one thing, like, Billy Epler wasn't perfect. I
not at all.
I didn't love Billy Epler, but guess what? Billy Epler was a shrewd negotiator.
Oh, definitely.
Aggressive.
He got Ohtani.
This is a guy that he knew how to close deals. Did he make all great deals? Of course not.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I would rather somebody who's super aggressive than somebody who's super conservative, and you lose out on players because you're trying to save a few dollars. Fuck all that. Like, it's about how can you be able to land this fish. If I gotta go 7 years to go get Cody Bellinger, then give him the 7 years. Who cares? Who cares about giving him an extra year that you're not comfortable with? It's about getting the player, because at the end of the day, if the Mets win a World Series in 3 years, what does it matter? What does it matter what the end of the contract looks like? Nobody cares.
And you can buy it out too. We're a big market team.
That's what I'm saying. So he has to understand where the F he is. This is not Milwaukee anymore, where every dollar counts. No, you can be able to take some risk here and still be able to move off of those contracts because you have the farm system. And I do believe that even if we do get a Tarek Skubal and we have to empty out the cabinet in the farm system, I have faith in David Stearns as a scout, as an evaluator of young talent, to be able to replenish that farm system and get us more talent as the years go on. So I am okay with letting go whatever prospect we have to, just as long as we land the big fish. You understand what I'm saying? We have that ability because he does have the ability to build a farm system. So use your ability to do that, but also get more aggressive to be able to make sure that your big league club has the assets that it needs to compete. That's what we want to see as fans.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sorry. I feel like you took the words right out of my mouth, that he's too cute with his negotiations.
100%.
But yeah, if you got to go beyond your comfort zone, you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Listen, that's free agency, right? There's a lot of times where the player has the advantage. If you want the player, you have to sell the player on what the state of the team is, what the future is, what their role is going to be. And 2, you have to entice them with money. So if somebody else is going to say, I'm going to give you 8 years, 200, and you're saying, I ain't going to lie to you, man. We can only do 5 years at 150. If I want to come there, I will come there despite what you're asking me, or despite what you're giving me. But if I'm going straight for the money, I'm going to take the 8 years, $200 million.
And most players are going for the money.
Right. Even if I don't want to go there, I'm going for the money. So you have to find ways to compete. Like the whole Edwin Diaz thing, right? Edwin loved the Mets. Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah.
I don't think that he ever wanted to leave the Mets, but if he was going to leave the Mets, it was going to be for the Dodgers, right? So in a situation like that, if you are the GM, if you are the president, if you're David Stearns, you have to go to Diaz and say, look, we're going to give you 4 years. 4 years, 83 million, right? Because giving him the extra year is giving him the security. Dodgers are giving him 3 years. So if you go 4 years and he still picks the Dodgers, at least you know you had a better offer than what the Dodgers gave him, outside of trying to look like, lowball him first and to say, hey, there's room to negotiate. No. I gave you my number. You didn't meet my number and the Dodgers did. So why do I have to come back to you? I don't owe you that, right? You understand what I'm saying? I'm a free agent. Just because I've been here for the last 7 years, I don't owe you another negotiation talk. They gave me exactly what I was looking for. That's where I'm going. So that's the thing as Met fans, that like a lot of people are not even realize, Diaz didn't want to be a Met. Whatever. He's a trader. No, he's not. If I'm a free agent and I just came from the Mets, we've had 2 playoff seasons or 2 successful seasons in my entire run since I was there. I love New York. I love the fans. I love the organization. Cohens, they treat me well. They treat my family well. But if you're going to offer me 3 years at $60-something million and the back-to-back World Series champions are going to give me the same money, where do you think I'm going?
No,
even
of course.
Even if I want to be a Met, where do you think I'm going to go? Of course I'm going to go to the Dodgers because I want to win. It's not about me not loving New York. I love New York. But you trying to get cute in negotiations cost you Edwin Diaz. Let's be honest.
It did.
You getting cute in negotiations last year because you didn't want Pete. You didn't even want to talk to him at the winter meeting. So of course, but the first team that was going to offer him what he wanted, what his number was, he was gone. He was not going to come back to it, and he still came back to the Mets.
That's only because he didn't get the numbers that he wanted from other teams.
But even this time, he got the 5 years on 155 commitment from the Orioles. Went back to David Stearns and said, "Yo, this is what they're giving me." Yeah,
I didn't even know that. That's crazy. See, that's all on David Stearns.
Can you match this? And David Stearns said, "Good luck in Baltimore." He didn't even offer him a contract because David Stearns didn't want to go over 3 years. So this is what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a guy that has a hard number in his head because he's always looking for fair market value. And there's a rule. There's a saying out there. If every time you're trying to get fair market value for things, you will lose out 9 times out of 10 because you're trying to go for that fair market value. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's
of course.
Just the way things are. You need to be a little bit more lenient in regards to where you're going to go. You might need to offer a little bit more just to be able to close the deal. And David Stearns cannot close deals because he has a hard line in the sand and he's fucking stubborn. And this is why the Mets are where they are, because he doesn't want to change his pitching philosophy. Oh, I don't want to go over a certain amount of years for a guy that's age 31. Who cares?
At this point, you're going to have to.
Like, who the hell cares? Like, frame a guy that's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Yeah, so very reliable.
You don't want to go 4 years for a guy that's going to give you 200 innings every year. He's going to hit you 190 strikeouts. He's going to be a bulldog. He might be your opening day starter. He'll be your opening playoff starter. Like all of these things he doesn't realize. But here's the problem, right? Here's the problem that I have. I'm going on a tangent, so you let me know when I can stop.
You can keep going.
it's we live in an analytical sporting world now, right? Where the analytics, the numbers on the paper are driving what people make decisions on. Here's the problem with that.
I hate that philosophy.
Right. You miss the human element of the game.
Oh,
when you're only just looking at numbers, you will miss things in regards to, oh, this guy's a good chemistry guy. Oh, this guy, he just, he may be a negative analytics guy, but when you watch this guy play, man, he's great, right? Sometimes you gotta go against what your philosophy is. Analytics are supposed to be a tool to help you evaluate. It's not supposed to be the end all be all of evaluation. You still need to use your mind and your eyes when it comes to baseball to be able to understand how to put a team together. And David Stearns does not have baseball feel. He just understands numbers on a paper. And that's the problem that we have throughout the entire sport of baseball. There's a huge analytics problem. Huge. And this is what we're in right now.
Yeah, analytics is ruining the game. So sorry. The thing about it too, for me, that pisses me off about analytics is that, like you said, it's just numbers on a paper. Obviously it could guide you towards the right direction sometimes, but at the end of the day, players are players and they're human, and you have your emotions that come into it, the chemistry. It's a lot more than just numbers on a paper that determines what a player is going to be going forward. Like
100%.
Yeah, so that's what pisses me off most, and especially as a baseball player. David Stearns is a big numbers guy. He's probably very smart. He is a very smart guy. He's graduated from Harvard, so I know he is. He's been in the front office for a while, since he was in his 20s, interning. So I know he's big with numbers, and the thing is that he's heavily relying on numbers and too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But I want to get into more transactions, some Mets transactions.
Yeah.
How do you even feel about the Nimmo trade in general? Because me personally, I'm not a big fan of that trade, and it's nothing to do with my attachment to Nimmo. It's more so just what you got in return. I know you got a defensive great defensive second baseman. My thing is, though, Marcus Semien is only getting older. So his range is probably going to diminish in the next year or so. And now you just lost a lot of power with Nimmo, who hit 25 home runs. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I if we're gonna take the emotional aspect out of it, I like the trade just because if you look at Brandon Nimmo's career with the Mets, when Brandon Nimmo came up, I always said that Brandon Nimmo's archetype was Hunter Pence. That's how he played the game. He was very, very, very similar player to Hunter Pence, right? The way they hit, the way they run the way they played the game was just very, very similar. Brandon Nimmo early in his career was a high on base guy, had a great eye, knew how to work counts, right? Was a very plus defender in center field, can be able to play the outfield corners, right? Never had a great arm, but made up for that with his IQ in regards to how he, his angles and how he got the ball,
he was great at reading the ball at one point in his career.
But very, very good at that, right? So when you look at it, he was a 370 on base guy, 375, 380. There was a year or two where he had over 400, right? Look at the last 2 years of his Met tenure.
His
home runs go up,
batting average goes down, and strikeout
base goes down.
Yeah,
right. And on top of that, his defense took many steps back. Right. Wasn't able to play center field as much because the range is not there. And now you factor in lack of range where he's never had a great arm. They say it's a noodle arm, right? So when you think about all of these things, yes, Marcus Semien is older at 35, but Brandon Nimmo's an old 33. And that's what you have to realize is that with 5 extra years on that deal, how was he going to look in the outfield couple of seasons from now, where now you're going to have to give him DH reps. Now you're going to have to give him a lot more DH reps going down the line because he can't give you anything defensively. And if he's not giving you anything defensively and the home runs are going up, he might have had a 30, 35 home run season for the Mets. But what would the on base be? 305, 310? You don't need that. You need a guy that can be able to work the count. We didn't have anybody outside of Soto and Alonso and Lindor to be able to work counts. And you need guys to be able to have better on base, because with better on base, you give your teammates a chance to be able to drive you in if you can be able to get on base somehow. And that's what Brandon Nimmo was not doing. His game was eroding from an analytics standpoint, and you can see where it was going. So I can understand making that move by just taking the emotions out of it, because you're getting a guy in Marcus Semien who you're not asking for anything out of him really, but play great defense. If you can be able to get him anywhere between a 740 or 750 OPS, you live with that, right? You don't need him to be at 800, 850 with those days in Oakland and all these other things, right? You just need him to play a solid second base. If he hits 250, great. If he runs into 20 home runs, great. But the defense and the locker room leadership that he's going to bring, all of those things are going to be vital, because what Marcus Semien is going to do for those young infielders that are coming up through the system for the Mets, he's going to work wonders. And that's what you want. There's more pluses with Marcus Semien than there are with Brandon Nimmo going forward. So that's why I say that it's a good trade-off, just because the Texas Rangers, they need a guy that can be able to have some pop in the bat. If he hits 25 home runs for the next 5 years for Texas, they're happy with that. If his on base raises another 10 points, they'll be okay with that, because they don't have the same type of philosophy that we do. But you cannot have an outfielder that is lacking major range in the outfield without a strong arm and have him play out there every single day, because that is going to have bad ramifications for you trying to be a run prevention team. And that's where I can see that, yeah, the trade does make sense.
Yeah, no, I like the way you break it down. I mean, you're very analytical in the way you think. Yeah, I mean, you just put into perspective for me because I
Yeah.
was really against the trade because, like I said, emotional attachment separated.
Yeah.
I'm mostly more so with Nemo. I wanted to package him for a trade for a pitcher if I
Yeah.
get a pitcher in return because that's
Yeah.
what we're lacking the most.
Yeah.
But the thing with now, I don't have a problem with Marcus Semien being on a team, but now you don't expect much offense from him because obviously his better days are behind him. He's
You
just
never
selling
know,
himself
though.
offensively.
You never know.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the Texas team, everybody had a down year. Like outside of DeGrom having the year that he had, like that entire team had a down year. So I'm not saying that Marcus Semien is going to go back to the team that won the World Series, right? Because he had a great year that year, right? But if you can get a guy that can be able to give you steady offense, 245, anywhere between 245 and 255, that is value for what we need, right? Because 255, 245, 17 to 25 home runs, that's value. That's something that we didn't even have last year at our second base position. So if you can be able to get that, yeah, like that's a plus. And on top of that, you're going to get a guy who's a dog who works his ass off every single day, that makes sure that he's like, he has a David Wright style of work ethic. He's obsessive. What I've heard about Marcus Semien is that this is a guy that when he comes into your organization, he makes everybody better because of how hard he works. And that's what you want. So that's why I say that, yeah, it's a great trade-off because you're not asking for a lot from him. And because you're not asking a lot from him, you might get more than what you're asking for.
That's true. That's true. But the thing is, though, we don't have a great offensive team right now, as we all know.
Not right now. I mean, listen, the team is not ready yet, right? So
at all.
As Met fans, we are emotional and we are impatient. But to be honest with you, it's only December. Was it the December 23rd?
23rd.
There's a lot of time to be able to revamp and change this team. Like, for example, there's Ketel Marte rumors out there.
I've heard about that one too. Yeah, I hope we could pull the trigger on that one. I really hope so because we're in a dire need of offensive players.
Ketel Marte.
Yeah,
Ketel Marte had a better season statistically than Pete Alonso did. If you didn't know
really?
That, yeah, in regards to
Pete Alonso had 38 home runs, 126
but in regards in regards to WAR, in regards to WRC plus, all of these numbers that they matter in baseball, he had higher numbers than Pete Alonso did. So
I didn't know that.
These are things that's what David Stearns is looking at. When you're looking at like a bat first guy, because of Ketel Marte, he's a decent defender, but at this stage of his career, he's a better hitter than he is defender. And 100%. If you can get a guy, so just think about it. If you now have a Jorge Polanco who hit 26 home runs last year, if you now add a Ketel Marte who had 26, 28 home runs last year, now you have two more guys that you didn't have at the bottom of that lineup or whatever it is in that lineup to have balance. And that's what you're looking for. So if you go sign a what's his name, Eugenio Suarez, right? Or if you go get a Cody Bellinger, or if you make the big splash and get a Kyle Tucker, you add those two guys with those guys, that lineup is better than the Mets lineup last year. 100%.
It's deeper. It's definitely deeper.
A lot deeper.
The top of last year's lineup would be better, but it's a lot deeper, and that's what you need essentially.
And that's what you need because when you look at the Dodgers, when you look at the Padres, you look at all of these teams that have deep lineups. The Toronto Blue Jays, these teams have deep lineups. They have guys that are in the ninth hole that can hit 25 home runs. That's what you want. You want value throughout your entire lineup because that's what wins. We seen. Listen. The Angels had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the same lineup for years.
Oh, very top heavy. And they couldn't do nothing with that.
They never made the playoffs. So
and they had no pitching, so that didn't help their cause.
There you go, right? So there's a lot more to a baseball team than just having a 40 home run season or 40 masher in your lineup, right? You need more. As good as Kyle Schwarber was, right? If that team wasn't good top to bottom, they don't go anywhere. Nope, and he had a monster year. So this is what I'm saying is that, yes, you're going to miss the 38 home runs and 120 something RBIs. but I'd rather have 3 guys that can be able to hit 25 plus home runs than one guy that you're relying on to hit 40. It's just a numbers game at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah, and I love that Blue Jays lineup. They were a pesky team all year
Dangerous.
long. And in the playoffs, they had a bunch of guys batting 300 plus, which is a dying art in today's baseball. You don't see that no more.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still an old school mind in terms of that. I love 300 hitters. I'm obsessed with that. That's why I still like Luis Ariz. Luis Ariz is still one of my favorite hitters because
I ain't gonna lie.
He has no value though. But I don't want him on my team now because considering what we're building. But I liked the fact that he's constantly, not that he's always on base because his on base percentage wasn't crazy high, but he was always on base via singles.
Yeah, he doesn't strike out a lot, gets a lot of singles. Like, the guys like that 20 years ago are super valuable, right? Yeah. There's still value in those guys, but it's about situational hitters. Like, you want guys to be able to have to make contact, but also get on base and be able to move the lineup around. Like, this is if you don't have much value outside of that, then it's tough, right? So high on base you need. If you hit for average, great. If you hit for power, great. All of those things, but you have to have a combination of those things. It can't just be one or the other. And that's what doomed Brandon Nimmo. The power went up over the last couple of years, right? He's been setting career highs the last 2 years in home runs. Yeah. But the on base was bad. And you can't sell that in regards to clutch hitting because we were not a good team when it came to situational hitting. And that on base says a lot more than the home runs do.
Yeah, no, you're right. You know what I mean? Even Juan Soto last year wasn't clutch. Juan Soto wasn't. Nimmo wasn't. Alonso was the clutchest player in my opinion last year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm missing about him too. Because in my opinion, I personally believe that Pete Alonso had a better season than Juan Soto offensively. As many home runs as Juan Soto hit, because Pete Alonso was more well-rounded all around. So that's why I'm gonna miss Pete Alonso in terms of that.
Yeah,
they're a great duo, obviously, as you know, but. What are the chances you see us signing like a Cody Bellinger or like a Kyle Tucker? Because you see that asking price, it's ridiculous. The $400 million for 8 years.
Well, that's the problem. Is that if you want me to put a percentage on it, I'm going to put it less than 10% just because of who we have negotiating the deals. Mm-hmm. If this was Billy Epler, I would say that the chances are maybe 85% that we sign one of those guys. But with David Stearns, it's not high because, again, he tries to get cute. And the thing that he's going to do, which is going to bite him in the ass, is that he's going to play the waiting game.
Yeah, I know he is.
wait it out until nobody's offering a contract. And then somebody's going to be like, Boris will call him and say, hey, well, what's up with a 3-year deal? Now it's okay. Now you're in my wheelhouse. Now we can talk. That's what he wants. But you're going to miss out on a player because you're trying to get your price. And sometimes you are not going to get your price. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you can be able to add a Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger, that is a versatile defender that you need, right? That fits your mold of player. Why would you not be super aggressive and just say, fuck it. If you want the 8 years, go get the 8 years, because the value that you're going to bring to my lineup and to my defense is going to outweigh me giving you the 8 years. Because if we win in the next 3 years, it's not going to fucking matter what the end of this contract
Exactly. Who cares? As Met fans, we don't care. We don't care about the end of the contract.
Yeah, that's how we look at it as fans. It's not our money. We don't care.
Exactly.
For a guy like him, it's everything. And I had made a comment off mic to tell you what I thought was happening. I can't confirm this for sure, but I do believe that what we're seeing out of David Stearns is, I think that they're prepping for the actual lockout. I think that they are not trying to commit long-term to a lot of players because they don't know what's coming. And what I mean by that is that we don't know if a salary cap is coming. We have no idea what is actually on the horizon, because there's going to be a work stoppage. Whether it's going to be the entire season or just a part of the season, there will be a significant work stoppage in 2027. So that's what I think that they're looking at. Like, yo, they might not be any baseball. We got to go pay these dudes. Like these are the concerns that they might have as to why he's being this conservative with trying to keep contracts low. So who knows? Maybe after the work stoppage, you see a different David Stearns.
I think that's more of his philosophy in general. That's the way he's been for a long time. So I don't think he's trying to change his ways.
It could be, but like I said, we gotta give him the benefit of the doubt because he's only been here 3 years. What we've seen is very bargain bazaar style, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has to try to mold that. He has to blend that together at some point. You just cannot be the Milwaukee Mets. That's not gonna work here, right? But I think that we're gonna see what it looks like. We have until spring training as Mets fans, and I am giving myself that. I am a super emotional fan. I have a co-host on my Mets show. His name is Tom Greer. He's the one that talks me off the ledge every single episode, right? He's like, listen, it's December 10th. It's December 11th. Calm down, relax. It's, let's see what. So I'm going to do the same thing for you. It's early. Let's see what he's going to do. But once spring training comes, there is no excuses.
Yeah.
There is no excuses. However you feel as a Met fan, you are warranted to feel that way.
I think so. I agree with you.
It's ball time. And if this is the team that you're going to roll out and you want us to be supportive and it doesn't look like a contender, then now as Met fans, we're going to go ahead and let you have it. But for right now, I can't do that because there's still a lot of free agents out there. There's still a lot of trades out there. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. So that's all we can do as Met fans, honestly.
No, you're right. And the thing is for me, I mean, I think David Stearns know that there's a sense of urgency this year, especially what happened last year.
He does.
So he better know. For his sake, I hope he's able to build a competitive team and that we are competing from day one and a collapse like last year doesn't happen because for his sake, there are a lot of crazy New York Met fans, and he better not be walking down the street in New York if the Mets are losing. That's all I'm gonna say.
I am very concerned with David Stearns if he doesn't put a good team together. I don't know how you're gonna be able to walk around Queens like that.
Right.
Man, first of all, I don't even know if he lives there. I think he still lives in Milwaukee, to be honest with you. He ain't that stupid. He ain't that stupid to be trying to walk the streets of Queens. That don't happen. Like when he's doing press conferences at Citi Field, they gotta sneak him in the back door. Like there's no way that somebody gonna catch you and say, "Hey, David Stearns, can I get an autograph?" Now you're gonna have a different interaction with somebody from New York, and that's just the way it goes. So
I know our fans.
Hopefully he knows what he's dealing with because he claims he's a Met fan. Well, okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I don't see that in him. So. No, you're right. So hopefully from day one that he puts out a competitive team and we start winning and we remain a competitive team throughout the entirety of the season and that we stay consistent. That's it. Because
that's it.
Like we said, we better not catch him lacking in the streets.
As Met fans, that's all we want. Listen, we get emotionally attached to players, right? But let's think about our history. Darryl Strawberry left. Doc Holliday left. You had Mike Piazza. He didn't retire a Met. You had Robin Ventura leave. Eduardo Alfonso get traded. You had Jose Reyes leave. You had Carlos Beltran go. Like there's Tom Seaver got traded. Like there's so many players throughout our history. Right. So we are fans of what's in the front of the jersey.
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan. I'm not a Pete Alonso fan. I'm not a DeGrom. Yeah. I like those guys. Obviously, they grow on me, but I'm a Mets fan.
We're gonna miss them as Met fans. But at the end of the day,
of course,
when the new season comes, the new batch of Met players that have that Mets on the front of their jerseys, that's what we're supporting. And we just want to see the Mets win a World Series. If Pete Alonso wins in Baltimore, shouts to him. We want the Mets to win a World Series, and whoever is going to be on the team to get us there, that's what we want. So
absolutely.
That's all it is. Like, let's, as Met fans, feel the emotion, be mad, be upset, be frustrated, be all the emotions that you want to feel. But at the end of the day, this is our GM for right now. This is our Pobo for right now. We have to see what he's going to do to be able to put this team together. Because I've said it on my IGs, on IG, on my shows, that Steve Cohen is saying, listen, since I've been here, I've spent X amount of money. I spent big money on Scherzer. I spent big money on Verlander. We almost got Correa. We got all these other guys.
Juan Soto.
It hasn't worked. We haven't won a damn thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do it your way and see if you win.
Yeah.
But if you don't win, your ass is gonna be on the.
That's exactly what I feel like is happening right now.
So that's what it is. Is that Steve Cohen's like, listen, whatever you want to do, go ahead. If you want to blow up the core, go ahead and do it. But make sure you win, because if you don't, I will replace you. So that's all we have to do. We just gotta wait it out. If he can be able to build a contender his way, then who are we to say that he didn't have a plan and he's the smartest guy in the room? But if he fails, he won't be here. So
no, most definitely not. We're going to drive him out personally.
Yeah, Mets fans have to understand that if he fails, he will not be here.
No, most
so
definitely
let's
not.
just see how it unfolds.
No, you're right. I'm a lot more calmer now after this right now than I was going into this interview. So no, I mean, I'm a Mets fan. I know you are. We just gonna patiently sit here and wait. So let's see what happens. Let the offseason unfold.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Barry, man, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. I appreciate it, really, truly do. Yeah. And we definitely need to do this a lot more often. I mean, I'd love to get into some basketball, some football if we can. So yeah, I love everything that you're doing, and I wish your channel, wish you a lot of luck in your channel and what you're doing. I think you're doing a good thing out there. So and continue following you and your journey, and hopefully we both reach the top.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, man. Like I said, podcasting, everybody, the message that I have for you as a young person doing this, right, is that everybody looks at the end goal. Everybody looks at the end product. Like you see success on somebody's channel, or these guys are doing all these great things, but it starts somewhere. Some of these big podcasters or Instagram channels or whatever it is, they were doing this for years before they built their empire, right? Like Joe Buttons was podcasting, one of the first, and he didn't start making money until like a decade, almost a decade in, right?
That's insane. Like,
all of those things, like Mr. Beast. You know how long he had his YouTube channel before he actually became who he is? So you got to understand is that passion is going to drive you. Passion is going to keep you. If you are somebody that's passionate to do this, keep doing it because you want to do it.
I love it.
Because of what it can be able to do for you. And your passion will be rewarded down the stretch at some point. You understand? But you got to put the work in. You got to stay committed. You got to stay consistent. And that's what is going to push through more than anything else, is your love and your passion and your joy for what you're doing, not for what it can do for you. You understand what I'm saying? So that's my message for you.
I appreciate that advice. Honestly, I truly appreciate it. And again, thank you for being on. And let's go. Let's go, Mets.
Absolutely.
Big thanks again to my special guest, Barry Grant Jr., for coming on the show. Make sure you follow All Even Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Barry's a sharp sports mind, and his content is definitely worth checking out. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. We've got more good content on the way. Appreciate you all for watching. For now, Slugger out. Catch you in the next video.